her to now ask for the book, and she gets the book. That's how you reduce problem behavior. Two relatively minor. Okay, so we're treating the behavior by its function. And then there's one instance, I believe there's only one instance where she engages in escape motivated behavior. And some people make the mistake of, if you don't treat it by its function, you could actually accidentally reinforce the behavior. So Angela's asking her to go over to do another activity, and it's an activity that she thought Alessia, based on past experience, was going to like, but she didn't want to go. But now that she places the demand on her, the only thing that's going to end it is Alessia's compliance. This is the escape extinction.
안녕. 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 안녕.
Andiamo means let's go. She's saying the same thing. Let's go. Behavior's pretty much stopped right about this point. When she's cooperative. Guys will come back over. So watch this. I love this video.
Sediti. No.
Tells her to sit. No. But watch, this is the best example I've ever seen where she just gets the fact that, you know what, I could act like this for a minute, a week, a month. Angela never gives in. I may as well just listen to her. Like, to me, it's this perfect example of how she has turned herself into the SD or the giant chocolate chip cookie, but she is also someone that will never give in to problem behavior. So why even try? Why do I even waste my time with that? Because it just doesn't work for me anymore. And that's what extinction does. Extinction is an important part of the science, and it's an important part of us being able to teach kids, because they got to learn the differences. If they control the environment, they control everything they want to do when they want to do it, then we're never, no matter how great a giant chocolate chip cookie you are, you're not going to be able to teach them, and our goal is to teach. So without delving into great detail on the behaviors, once again, this is the only thing that she did, meaning, you know, she may have had these little types of episodes in the sessions, but for the most part now, she's got a 2-hour session where this kid is responding, talking, engaging in new activities, doing lots of great programming, and yet a relatively minor amount of problem behavior. So I'm going to jump here again, kind of finish up this. Here's her doing appropriate doll play. It's, you know, I could say it rather than have to show the whole thing. Early discrete trial training. This is the first time Angela is doing discrete trial training, and I told her, I go, you're ready. She's ready. She's listening to you. You can now start to work on embedding demands other than her manding. You can now start to embed other demands. So we set up a basic program. First time she's doing it, we're doing the remotely. We're actually doing some of the programming remotely. We'll just show a segment of it.
Sei pronta? Dammi le patatine. Patatine. Bravissima.
I'm not holding this up as perfect example of
Prendimi le patatine.
trial training.
Bravissima, vediamo un po' cos'è.
Well, when I say, I don't mean literally the first. Our early pre-trial training.
E quando proprio piccola.
She's actually showing another person there that will be working with Alessia.
Completa.
But she's just embedded demands. The potato chips are pretty reinforcing for her. So I said, use the potato chips at the table. So you've had all your other fun activities. She was manding, good part of it. Now let's just embed a couple of short sessions in the 2-hour session where you're going to embed related or demands that are unrelated to her reinforcers or unrelated to function at that point in time, embed other demands in between, which is really structured teaching. We're talking about structured teaching. So it's just a short example. It's a good segue for her. You'll see in this example, this is 6 months later, so 6 months from the first video. And I love to let this video play for a long time. I edited way down, but I'm just showing all of the spontaneous language that this child has now in 6 months.
Babala. Ayun. Babala. Mamala.
You can hear Angela clicking in the background every time she's requesting.
Okay. Bravo.
These are all things that have been prompted before. Now 80% or more.
Bacinella, brava.
Like, you know, I learned basic language.
Acqua, bravissima.
Notice how she's got the environment set up where she has to ask for these things that are not necessarily.
Acqua.
You give the dolls a bath.
Acqua.
I'm gonna fast forward it, but as I said, you know, she's constantly manding without prompts. Every now and again, she'll get a little prompt, like there was a prompt, but every now and again, minor prompts. She's asking for the soap, sapone, shampoo, asking for the cup, the biquiera. She gives a little gestural prompt right there for the shampoo. She's asking for the shampoo. Now she's asking for the towel, asking for the blow dryer, phone. I mean, just think about the implications of the work that Angela has done. Now she can have activities with her sister that's appropriate, more appropriate, rather than just the STEM, and the language is increased exponentially. I'll show you one quick clip of the discrete trial training. Awesome discrete trial training from the standpoint of the demands being placed.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to fast forward because it's a lengthy clip. We'll run out of time here. But the bottom line is that she's placing a ton of demands. And I told her, I'm there on the console, and I said, don't stop until I tell you. I want you to just keep placing demands on her. And she goes on for like 3 minutes, and I finally say, okay, don't do it. You don't need to give her some reinforcement, put her in reinforcement. Because it was clear to me that she is responding quickly and accurately to Angela's demands to the best of her ability. You see, has really great eye contact with Angela, likes being in her presence, and now hundreds and hundreds of demands are being placed upon her. So what started out as a ton of manding and fun natural environment teaching now starts to shift to more structured teaching. So that period of time that she was working with her, and remember, she's only working with her for 2 hours. At this point, she's not in the regular school yet. She will be the following September. But at this point, she's still not in the regular school. Yeah, at that point, I kind of tell her, yeah, okay, stop. And the mother's laughing in the background. She says, yeah, she goes, remember in the beginning, we couldn't even get her to sit in the chair for a split second. And you see that what's come over her has been the combination of a lot of things. Really nice video with her and her sister. Here they're pairing, which says Alessia pairing with the we. The sister and her friend come over, or the friend comes over to play with the sister, and we're pairing the we game with reinforcements. Angela's basically giving her chips while they're playing the Wii game. Alessia had no real interest in but we started to pair that game because it's something that now the girls could do together, the three girls could do together. Really nice example. She starts to find that reinforcing. Again, peers were never reinforcing before. I'll fast forward this. Now the sister's coming over. I keep saying coming over. The sister's friend comes over, and now they're playing hide and seek. You'll see that she sees the intrinsic value of interacting with the other kids. You can't force it.
No,
You can't force kids to like other kids.
ok,
No
vai vedere,
condition.
vai vedere. La viste.
I'm going to fast forward. You'll see the smile on Alessia's face. Now, she's genuinely enjoying the interaction with not only her sister, but with Claudia, her friend. She becomes conditioned as a reinforcer. So remember, all of these things, so the pairing is broad. It's not just pairing, it's you yourself as a staff, but help your parents, help the parents, especially during these times now where we're confronted with major challenges, to use some of these, use this type of understanding of the science in order to shape up some of these behaviors that didn't occur before. This last clip on the video side I'll show is her birthday. It's her 7th birthday. And previously, she was never involved in her own birthday party. She would be wandering around the yard and all the other friends and cousins would be there. And this time, for the first time, for the first time now, she's actively engaged in the activities, participating in it. Sorry for the coughing here. I haven't been talking this much in a long time.
This is great, Tom. I actually just put out my cell phone number to people in case they have questions and they want to text me, or if they wanted to use the chat. One of the things that someone did email me over the weekend, which is so pertinent for right now, is the pairing, the virtual pairing.
Okay.
So yeah, let's talk about your thoughts on virtual pairing. How are we going to pair with kids through the internet?
Let me finish with this last.
Okay, sorry.
Because it kind of ties in the combination of the problem behavior and also the importance of demanding. I put this chart together because there was a Rhodes Scholar who was at one of my workshops, really brilliant woman, Italian woman, a brilliant woman, and she didn't appear to be paying attention. She was doing all kinds of other things. But yet, and almost to a point where like she'd come on the break and she'd be asking me questions. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, why don't you pay attention? Like that kind of thing. But it was being translated, and she's an English speaker, so it was at a much slower pace, and plus she's a pretty smart woman. She was getting the bits and pieces of it, and she was trying to ask questions to clarify different points. And at the end of the workshop, what she said to me is that the whole case study is very powerful, and I could see how the children in our country would benefit tremendously from employing what she called this method. That's how she referred to it, this method. But what she said is, I can't get over the fact that it took an hour and a half for her to cooperate on one day and then an hour on another day. Isn't there another way that we could have done that? Okay. This is why I want to finish on this point, because remember, I'm brought in for problem behavior, not because Alessia is not talking, not because she's not interacting with her peers, not because she has very few reinforcers. I'm being brought in this case, it wasn't the behavior. In this case, this is an example of me working for an association and consulting to one of the families of the association. But if it's in a school environment, I'm not being brought in for those things. I'm being brought in because the child's engaging in a lot of problem behavior. So what I did, I didn't have this available to me, but I had all of the data. And I went to after everybody left, it was at a workshop in Rome, I went on to the wall and I said to her, I said, look, if this is the pie chart, if we put a pie chart, the first 6 weeks, so 3 weeks were strictly pairing, no demands being placed upon Alessia, none. And then the 3 weeks after I came, 3 weeks when demands were placed on her, so this is 24 2-hour sessions. That's the amount of extinction that was used during that 6-week period of time. And I did that out of my head, just guessing, but having a fairly good understanding of her program. I told her, I said, but if we were to go from this day forward into a full year, you would see if you took a nail file or a knife out of your pocketbook and you drew a slice of that pie, that's the amount of extinction would be in her program. And I actually went back, Angela had the data, we went back and we did it. And that's literally after a full year of programming, that little sliver, if you could even see it, I don't even know if you could see it, the little sliver right there, that's the amount of times that Angela would have to run extinction or count and mand or escape extinction with her. I mean, kids are kids. They're going to go off a little bit and you direct them. But now the entire program is at stake. So more importantly, like when people get hung up on the behavior, I just think there's something missing. So if you look at the positive reinforcement and you see her program, think of that blue area as hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands of demands that are being placed on her, learning opportunities. And now you see the changes that have taken place with that child over what amounts to about a year period of time. No, 6 months. The last video you saw was in the summertime, so it would be more like 9 months from beginning to end. And you see that 9 month period of time, the changes that have come over her, and it was the result of a heck of a lot of hard work with the teacher and tons and tons and tons of demands being placed upon her. So kind of want to finish the behavior, the pairing, the manding with that. And if none of that works for you, what you could do, let me see here. If you really get stuck, this is what I suggest to a couple of the parents to do.
Wait, expand it, Tom.
That's about it. I mean.
Oh, wait. So the parent is on the computer and the kids are bound and gagged.
Yeah. So you would appreciate this, Sandy, because you may remember 2 of the boys are kids that I worked with. She works for me now. Gina is the mom in the background. She works for me. And 2 of the boys are kids that you've seen in the videos that had severe problem behavior. And she's doing it as a joke. Like, look what I can get these guys to do right now. Because she can't get work done at home. I need her to do work. And she said, the only way I could do it is to bind and gag them. I said, well, do it. And they kind of play along with it. So it's obviously a gag. So don't anybody report us to DIFUS or whatever the division is in New York. Don't do that. We're doing it as a joke. Okay. So that there. Okay. So then the one question about virtual pairing. Until you asked me that question this morning, I didn't have any real time to think about it. But what I would do is a couple of things. Number one is I live by the serenity prayer in the field of autism. You know, give me the strength to change the things I cannot accept the things I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So I find sometimes I'm always having to do that and guide people to think along the same way. Some things we can't change. Obviously, this is something that we can't change. That said, I still would go back to the basics. It doesn't change. So everything that I shared with you, if I had to do that, I would really be granular as much as possible on identifying the reinforcers and think outside the box. Literally think outside the box. So for instance, I know a boy that loved food, and he was a little chubby guy, probably was eating more than he should have, but he just loved food. And it wasn't just the food in front of him. He liked pictures of food. He liked menus. He used to sleep with the Friendly's menu. I don't know if you have Friendly's in New York, but there's a chain, like a breakfast kind of chain. He would
We do.
With the Friendly's menu, with all the ice creams and all that kind of stuff. And it was very exciting to him. So in his case, if I had to do virtual pairing with him, I'd be going out and grabbing every menu that I can from every restaurant that was open or taking them offline. And I would just be using that, I'd be pulling, look at this menu. And, I might be able to use it to mand or whatever the case is. But, mand for the different types of menus if I'm able to do that. But that's just one thought that, came to my mind. You could do the monster hand. I mean, think about it. If you had if you're doing it for the first time, they're probably not going to get the benefit, because part of the benefit is the suddenness of you switching from being quiet to, the scary monster and then tickling the belly or whatever the case is. So probably not going to be as effective virtually, but I would be thinking of things along that line. Go back to what the reinforcers are, use those that you could easily control. That's a key. It's not just about if a kid loves ice cream, we're not going to give them ice cream because we can't control it. So that's not a great reinforcer to use for pairing. It may be a reinforcer that's used at some point, but it's not one that we're going to target for pairing because we can't easily control it. So, I don't really, without knowing the specific child, I mean, just to come and think of outside the box things, I think you could do the same, but I would be I'd go back to what are those reinforcers? I'd go back and reassess because they change, they can and do change. I used to joke that parents of kids with autism could fund the national debt, or at least before.
Right.
What's in their basements, because they run out when Pocahontas is hot, they run out and get everything known to mankind on Pocahontas. And then they can't sell it for 10 cents on the dollar the next week unless another parent comes along and it's in the Pocahontas stage. So we have a tendency to kill reinforcers. And one of the ways to ensure that they maintain their value is to be more judicious in the way that they're, doled out, for sure. But I would look at it that way. I would be looking at whatever their reinforcers are, if they're, and then what access to those types of things that you may have to be able to do virtually. If you're stuck and it's videos that they like, you may want to ask the parents not to have videos available to them for a certain period, their favorite videos, and then just watch the video with them. You know what I mean? And if it's the early stages and you're just starting with the child, you don't want to be turning that video off because now you're killing the reinforcer. So you may just want to get whatever benefit you can derive without mutually doing. You might be smiling with them and talking a little bit during it if you sense that that's something that they enjoy. I mean, there are times when you watch a video and the kids like the interaction with their mom or their dad. They're looking at something together and they're smiling or laughing about it, those kinds of things. But if you're seeing a kid for the first time and you're shutting that video off, now all of a sudden you're becoming somebody that's taking something away. So I don't really have much more unless I knew the kid, and then I would try to go and exhaust everything that I possibly could, and then see how they may play in a technology way. And there's tons of challenges with that, as you know. Just the technology alone is the challenge when you're sitting there. And our kids are gadget oriented. Many of our kids are gadget oriented. They already have more fun with gadgets than now having to do it with somebody else. So you got the additional challenge there. I think I would spend most of my time, if I were in this situation, working with the people that the child's currently with to be able to employ more of these to make their day better. So one of the things that I've done when I go and work with a child for the first time, I insist that the kid is not around and that I have both of the parents so that I have their attention. Because if the kid's coming up and all of a sudden you're involved, it just goes to hell in a handbasket. I need to get a sense that they understand what we're about to do and what their role in it is. So I would suggest that as a staff, you meet with the parents and talk. I don't know how much of this how much you've done, but I would try to use them because they're currently with the kids, and it would be much more valuable. That time would be much more valuable than trying to make something up on the fly. And again, that's my opinion. I don't know how that plays into anything, but I'm just saying, that's my opinion. If I had a parent and I knew they're struggling, which most of them are right now, they're struggling big time, I would go over some of these things and let them know how, hey, we could actually turn this into a real positive. Or the best that we can turn it into a positive. There's all kinds of things that you can do with kids in the home. I mean, how many times have we done things with the swings and
blanket swings and things like that?
Swings, slides, yeah.
And Tom, a lot of what you're saying is a lot of what's going on right now. We're finding that this time is a lot of parent training, parent coaching, tips and ideas. Obviously, the materials that we're recommending being used are all things that are found around the house. So parents are starting to see that a lot of this stuff can be done at home. So we are definitely using this time. Some of us have even talked about this as almost a gift to a lot of families, that they get their teachers and therapists almost as in-home coaches. And so yeah. The other thing about technology is about, for people, and I can do this at another time, but background screens, dressing up. So if you get a background screen, like I created that Paw Patrol background screen, and then all of a sudden I've got my Paw Patrol hat on, it's like, whoa, because then you're not just the teacher, you're part of the Paw Patrol.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. That those are the kind of things that I'm talking about. But again, when you know the reinforcer and you know that child and you know what they like, think of creative ways, outside the box ways, or if you could help the parents with the materials. Not a lot of people are creative that way, and they don't. It's hard to wear that hat. Like I always, one of the reasons why I was so passionate about teaching teachers in public schools is that I wanted my daughter to work when she was in school, and when she's home, I wanted her to be a kid. Not have to do extra programming if we didn't have to. I wanted her to enjoy spending time with her sister and kids in the neighborhood and play, because so many kids learn through active play, and it has all the implications for social and all that stuff. I don't have to tell you, it. But that would be my point. So, but parents are not creative. It's like Lauren. I go to that example, and I don't do it to pick on her, because, as I said, she would be the first one. If she's there, we would play off of that. I would tease and I'd make it more lively when I'm doing it with her. But the reality of it is it doesn't come natural to her. It's not something she didn't think. She's not a play-oriented person. She's a serious person. But knowing the importance, she has turned into that person. She goes through that process. And although it's not natural for her, which it won't be for many of the parents, they can still use the same techniques, same principles. And I guarantee you there are a lot of parents out there that were like me, not conditioned reinforcer. The kids don't want to be with them because the parents are routinely putting demands on them. And they're not fun to be with. And then it's also hard when you're trying to do that in the beginning stages without proper support, because then, problem behavior occurs and they're thinking that they have to let them get away with it. You know what I mean? So it's not an easy, I'm not trying to shun questions, but they're not questions that are easily answered in short little bursts of video, if you know what I mean. They're more ongoing. But I think regular trainings of what pairing is, and showing parents and showing some examples, different kids and things like that would be very helpful. And then also to be able to think about how many opportunities they can get their kids to talk. And when they see it and they understand it, I show a lot of videos where the parents weren't doing any of the work, and I do it on purpose, because if the parents are doing a lot of work, then it's not indicative of the work I'm showing that was done in the classroom. So one of the reasons why I do that is because if they're getting dual work, which is always better if the programming is sound, and again, when I'm talking about work at home, I'm talking about natural environment teaching. I'm not talking about doing discrete trial training. I don't want our parents to be doing that unless they absolutely have to. I wouldn't want them to do that. So.
Right. Yeah, natural environment teaching, and that's where we're aiming in our Zoom sessions and in our learning plans are all focused on teaching parents natural environment teaching. We're actually going to, Tom, we have a subcommittee put together now of putting together some basics for families, because what we're finding is that a lot of our families don't have a lot of the basics when it comes to maybe the language or the understanding about reinforcement and pairing and conditioned reinforcers. So it's hard to do a lot of what we're doing without the basics. And it took us a couple of weeks to realize our families don't have the basics as much as we have worked to teach that. So we're going to be working on that.
Yeah. And I think that's the, that's the most important thing you could do at this point, because needless to say, they're with the kids the most. And I would try to get encourage the grandparents and whoever's there. Like, I'm not saying bring other people in, especially in these conditions, but if people are there, encourage them. A lot of times the grandparents, I see from just being around families when I work overseas. I don't work privately here, and I never work privately unless it's somebody that I knew, like the girl Gina who bound and gagged the kids. Somebody like that. We don't work privately, but overseas I would be in the homes, and grandparents are in the home and the sister's over, and very often you'll see like the kid gravitates to the sister. I'd be asking those questions. Why does she like her so much? Like, what's so much fun about her? What does she do? Oh, she's just silly. She's always doing crazy things. Okay, well, he likes crazy things and he likes silliness. So can you be silly? Sometimes it seems so simple, but the reality of it is it can be. It's just that easy.
Right. Well, Tom, if you remember, some of the things that we talk about is like why, when Jenny McCarthy was dating Jim Carrey, why did Jenny call Jim Carrey the autism whisperer? I use that example a lot because wouldn't you be attracted to Jim Carrey if
Ooh,
with his voices and his facial expression and his animations? Like,
without a
come
doubt.
on. He wasn't an autism whisperer. He was the chocolate chip cookie.
Without a doubt. Yep.
Yep. So, but
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that you say that and you give the example of Lauren because it is not easy for people to be silly and do to be that loose and free and crazy with kids. And so I mean for some of us it comes a little bit more naturally.
Yeah.
And but I definitely appreciate that you say that because even if it's not for kids, it's you might be a newer person and you don't want to be that in front of your peers and you might look silly in front of your peers and um
Well, I give them permission to look silly in front of everybody. In fact, the silliest people are generally going to be the ones that are going to pair with the kids quicker, generally speaking.
right. Oh wait. So how about this, Tom? This is one of my favorites, right? My staff in Ellenville will say this, oh God, here goes Sandy. But wait, did somebody say monster? Did somebody say monster? Right? And now I got
Yeah,
kids on a
there you
Zoom
go.
call, like, and then it's like this, like, did you see that? Was there a monster here?
Yep.
And I've got kids saying monster. They're sitting on their parents' laps. Monster,
Yep.
demanding for the monster to come back again.
Awesome.
Oh, wait, I think I see the monster,
Yeah. Exactly. Great example. Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So again, it doesn't. And then in the middle of a Zoom call, we had a little boy run off, said, wait, runs off, gets his mother has all these great costumes, all this great dress up stuff. He comes out with a little wig and he comes back to the Zoom call. He's wearing his wig and he kind of does like this in front of his face, doesn't cost anything. And who cares? Your hair gets messed up. But I like that you said, give us permission to be silly.
Yeah. Well, I have after my surgery several years ago, I was staying with a friend in New Jersey, and he has a grandson that was only like 3 years old. And I mean, we both would have and I just have fun with kids like that, gravitate with kids like that, and he is just the most fun kid of all kids I've ever worked with. And he has no disability; he's just a regular kid, and we would just do things like I've never seen this kid cry. Like he just doesn't. 3-year-old, and don't see him cry. And whenever he did, we would act out scenes from the movies. We were like the dirty grandpas. We would act like a man. We would do something like that, and all of a sudden he just starts laughing and bursting out with laughter. And we just would do all kinds of things that if their parents were around, grandparents could get away with stuff like that. They didn't approve of all of our actions. Let's put it that way. But we're having fun doing that. And I'm pretty good. I'm not going to do it on camera now because that won't happen. But I'm pretty good with the Sesame songs. I'm pretty good sounding like Elmo and Big Bird, and I know those songs. So then I would engage those songs as though I'm the Cookie Monster. I could talk like the Cookie Monster when I'm engaging with him, or I would play just a simple game, especially when he was 3 and he couldn't catch me. Now unfortunately I can't get away from him as often. But I would play songs like Tom's Too Fast, but I would do it to like Big Bird, la 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 la, Tom's Too Fast, that kind of thing. And then he would try to catch me and I dodge him, and we would have hours of fun doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
And the same thing with Big Bird, or those crazy songs you just kind of incorporate it in. I take a balloon and we would play Ta La La. Whenever I see this kid, he's now like going on 6. Can we play Ta La La La? And it was like just taking a balloon and he's trying to get the balloon. Ta La 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 La.
Right.
Just doing that kind of goofy stuff, and you could just have tons of fun. So the challenges are clearly more with the technology, but your example right there was good. And any other, masks. I mean, a mask would be something I'd be looking into, the different kind of masks for whatever the kids are interested in now. And like you said right there, it didn't have to be a certain mask. It's just bringing something new into the mix.
Right.
And I don't know, like some kids it's going to be hard to do with technology because they're so gadget oriented anyway. Doesn't mean it's impossible, just means it's a lot harder.
When we end this, Tom, I'm going to share with our staff, there's great information on what you can do with the technology with green screens. So yes, Zoom allows this, but now I'm joining some groups where you can make interactive green screens. So I'll share that with our staff when we're done. Gosh, Tom, I thank you so much for your time. I mean, it's already 11:08, and I know this is cutting into your day, but we really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any question that's specific to what I covered, obviously I can't troubleshoot programs for kids and things like that. I don't know the kids, but if there are any questions about any of those areas, like with the pairing, and I think like I said to you, some of the overlooked things are the peer pairing. What a great time now when the kids are there, and don't forget to, like, the typically developing siblings, let's say, don't forget to reinforce them. Like when you're doing it, like that could be a huge time for you to have them pair with their brother or sister with their activity. So you got to be careful. You want to make sure that they understand what the goal there is. And a lot of times the kids are awesome with doing that. And then you just reinforce them too. Like, oh, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of you, Billy. You're doing an awesome job being a great big brother. And then you're delivering reinforcers with it. So like those kind of things, it could be, like you said before, it could be a blessing in some ways. So you got to make lemonade, right? You got to do.
You got to make lemonade. And I'm going to tell you, Tom, we have gotten that feedback. We've gotten the feedback from some of our families that this is the first time ever that the sibling and the child that we work with has spent this much time together, and they're actually starting to play together. And mom and dad, or some family member is home and able to help facilitate that.
Yeah, and just one follow-up point to that. Yeah, like there are times I was working with one boy. You may remember Giuseppe. A lot of problem behavior. I would show him as a behavior program, and he couldn't even be in the same house. They had a small house in Italy, in the southern part of Italy, and the little boy, what was his name? I can't think of the little one's name. But anyway, the younger brother, who was only 3, Giuseppe was going on 7, and pretty big physical, a lot of problem behavior. The little guy couldn't even be home anytime because they were afraid that he would get hurt. So the father would pick him up from school, bring him to an aftercare program. They literally would come in and go to bed afterwards, after they had dinner, and they were never together. And what we did is we more or less took the reinforcers that were the most powerful for Giuseppe. One was jumping on the bed as though it was a trampoline. A small house, but the parents' bed was actually a trampoline. But the only time that Giuseppe ever had access to doing that, when Marco was the boy. When Marco, he would have to go get Marco, and then when Marco came in, they would take turns on the bed, and all of a sudden Marco became paired with the bed and paired with the brother, and it was a start. And we used that also, like in that video, if you recall, I show him where he loved food. He was one of the boys that really loved food. And he would like know where all the cheeses were from all different regions of Italy and prosciuttos and all that kind of stuff. And one of his favorite reinforcers was a little hot dog, and they would call it by the German name, Wuster, there. And that was his absolute favorite thing. So what we did is we just made sure he never had them until we needed them. They were the most powerful reinforcers. And we started to pair up soccer because it's such an important part of their culture. Dad was really into it. The little brother liked playing soccer. The neighborhood kids liked playing, the cousins, all of that. And we started pairing. The mother starts doing it. She's actually playing soccer in the living room with a ball that's not, not like a heavy ball.
Yeah.
He starts playing with him, and every time he has no interest in it, but he kicks the ball, she's going over, sticking a little piece of the Wuster in his mouth. And all of a sudden, Giuseppe became very interested in soccer. And then they show me a video probably about a month and a half later, where he's actually in the yard. They lived on the second floor where they're in the enclosed area, and he's playing soccer, and it's legit. I mean, it's not like he's playing the game, but he's kicking the ball. When it comes to him, he's kicking, trying to score the goal. He's kicking it to other people, and they say, hey, kick to me, Giuseppe, kicking it to him. An actual play that was brought about because of, in this case, the hot dog, and the understanding of how to use that hot dog to get more opportunities to pair it with something that's important, or in this case, it was that. So There you go.
Yeah, those are the kinds of gifts that we need to give parents, is that kind of information.
Yep.
Yeah, Tom, thank you so much. You know
All
what?
right.
I'm realizing that some people are going to have, some of our participants have had to leave because I think that they've had, you know,
Okay.
either to attend something. Tori wrote something in the chat. I just want to read it to everyone in case they can't see it. We were talking about increasing, you know, some of the you know, increasing Zoom so that the kids are more interested. She writes, you can even print character faces to put on a stick and hold them up as a mask. She says it's easy to do at home and basically free. Yeah, definitely. If you knew all of your students, some of your students' favorite characters.
Yeah, so in that example I was saying before about like the Sesame Street characters, I mean, there's a clear example. You could basically be like almost like a puppeteer with the masks and do the same type of thing, some silly, goofy stuff, and personalize it to the child's name, which is more fun than doing it, you know, just on the regular show. So if you can incorporate other reinforcers with that reinforcing character delivering it, yeah. So whoever came up with that idea, absolutely great, awesome. And I think that's something that could be shared. A lot of people could use that in different ways and just take that from as an example, and then again look at the reinforcers for that kid and see how you can incorporate them specifically into it.
Right. Right. If anybody else has anything they want to pop it up into the chat, now is the time. I'm going to be sharing some more of your videos if you don't mind, Tom. You've got some great ones on the internet. And I also have to tell you that I joined a speech pathologist Facebook group the other day. Groups are popping up all over the place. And somebody used your name and an example of a video that you made in a Facebook group about conditioning new reinforcers. It was great. So
Awesome.
I just wanted to share that with you. That was the other day on the internet.
And it's nice to know you did something that helped some other person out, and that's good. It's reinforcing.
Wow. It's reinforcing. Well, you sure did. You sure did for a lot of us. A lot of us do remember when you came to the Center for Spectrum Services years ago and you presented for us. That was phenomenal. It was a big takeaway for a lot of people. And we really appreciate this. Let's see what somebody said. They said, I have sent parents a video of how to make a sock puppet. And I made one so we could use during our Zoom. It only lasted a few minutes, but it was nice that the parents made it with her.
Yeah.
Yep. So those are great.
Yeah. All kinds of cool ideas. Simple things, a paper bag. You could have fun with a paper bag if you do it the right way. I don't have the long hair you have, so I can't be the monster.
Yeah.
The same way, but there's other things you could do with that. Yep. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, folks. And I always like to close by thanking all of the people who work with our kids. I really appreciate all the hard work that you guys do. And I know the parents do too. Sometimes they may not necessarily say it during those times because it's overwhelming for many, but I know how hard you guys work. I see you. And I know if you're working with Sandy, I've seen it firsthand. So I really appreciate the effort, and I'm sure they do too. So thank you so much.
Thomas, thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to